My name is Worthey, and I'm here with Harvey Smith.
Hi, Carl. How are you?
Good. And you were in the Navy?
Nope, Air Force.
Ah. And what was your job in the Air Force?
So my AFC, which is your job category, was aircraft fuel systems mechanic. I was stationed in Vietnam in two locations, in Cam Ranh Bay initially, and Van Rang. Did my training and at where pretty much everybody does it, at Chinook Air Force Base, and then at Dover Air Force Base. Was trained on the F4s, F100s, C-141s, C-130s, and what we did was we kept the airplanes running and flying and serviced them when they came back from missions.
From a civilian member to a veteran?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question. I guess I really never thought of that. So going into the military was just something that everybody did at the time. So it was a natural trend. You know, it was what you did or you went to college, and I certainly was not in a position to go to college at the time. So you know, being drafted or enlisting was pretty much inevitable. I think you know, going through basic training, my time in Vietnam, I mean, certainly it was a meaningful transition for me for the rest of my life. It gave me an opportunity to really explore some of the potential that I hadn't been able to discover in high school, and it positioned me to go to college. So it was, from that standpoint, it was very positive. Vietnam was it was a challenge, but I was not in direct combat environments. It was around us, but I was not in a situation where I had to be in direct combat.
Did the base ever get attacked?
Yeah, the bases were attacked, but the kinds of things that people were going through in Vietnam were very different than what we dealt with on the base, even when they were being attacked. So it was a very different environment, especially Cam Ranh Bay. Van Rang was a little bit different. Van Rang, we had a number of more incursions into the base, and especially during the Tet offensives. But it was certainly a time when you kept your eyes open. I think going into Vietnam was, I didn't know what to expect. So you know, you had a book and it said, you know, when you hear gunfire, don't stick your head up and look to see where it's going. Like that was, they actually had to write that in the book. So you're really not prepared for a combat situation if you haven't been in one before. So I didn't know what to expect. But I think generally, for the most part, I felt relatively safe on a day-to-day basis being on the Air Force bases. We had good protection, good coverage from the ground support and the Army.
What was it like being there during the Tet Offensive? Which base were you in?
I was in Cam Ranh Bay. We spent a lot of time in bunkers. We had a lot of rocket attacks. So I was, you know, one of the things I was responsible for was the night response to aircraft repair for our unit, and I would try to get people away from the runway areas at night if we didn't need them, because the rockets would come in, we'd get mortared, and there'd be flak, and we spent a lot of time, you know, in bunkers. But you know, again, I guess you just didn't think about it you know, at the time. It's just what you did.
What do you think was the most rewarding part as your job is fixing airplanes?
You know, that's a really good question. I hadn't thought about that one before. What was the most rewarding part? I think probably the life skills and the teamwork that I learned. I mean, the military and, you know, being in Vietnam was, you know, certainly it was not a country club, and it was not an environment that was all about you. It was about, you know, about doing the work that needed to get done. So I think it was a humbling experience. I worked a lot with actually
What was probably one of the best memories you had?
coming home.
What was that like?
That was really kind of neat. Braniff Airlines was our airline coming home, and they went all out to make it a very memorable experience coming home. From the food to the stewardesses to the way that the airplane was treated. They really treated people returning from Vietnam as if they had done something special, and you know, that was.
Is there anything else you would like to say or talk about?
I think that some of the impacts on people. People came through the base, and at Cameron Bay, casualties came through. Both wounded casualties and fatal casualties came through the base, and the numbers of people coming through to be loaded on airplanes to take back home to the United States. That was a pretty astounding realization to see, you know, that many people in coffins getting ready to be loaded. That was a kind of a vivid memory. See the emotional damage that was done to a person who was in a combat situation, doing really awful things themselves around, and so I still remember that, and just how you just don't want to treat people that way. I mean, you just don't want to be in that kind of an environment. And it's, I mean, war is a really awful thing as a community, and I don't think we're doing a really good job taking care of our returning vets coming back from our combat situations. I think we missed it. I think we did a better job after Vietnam than we're doing now, and we didn't do a great job after Vietnam.
Some people.
I'm glad it's over. Let's put it that way.
It's good, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for your service.
You bet.